Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So in this video, we will talk about one of the important concept in structured streaming known as micro batches. Okay, so micro batch is a combination of two processes. One is the batch process and another one is the streaming process. Okay, now basically you can say it's a combination of both. Okay, now micro batches, my bad. Okay, now the question is what exactly it is. Okay, when we say it's a combination of both, right, the question arises, how can we correlate, or how can we actually use both of the processes in a single go, right? So first of all, what is micro batch we have to understand, then in what conditions we have to use it, right? So when to use, right? And the third part is how to use. And when I talk about how, it means mostly it's a syntax part, right? Okay, now let's try to understand what is micro batch first of all. Okay, so I'll talk about a simple scenario. Let's say this is my source and this is my target. Okay, so in the streaming process, what happens, right? When we talk about streaming, generally as soon as the data lands into the source system, right, we need to process this data to the target systems, right? It's not based on some time intervals, it's a continuous flow, right? That's what we say. Whenever we deal with the streaming process, we actually deal with the continuous process, right? Continuous flow of data, right? So now to use micro batches, what we do is, when we try to read the data from the source, and after reading, when we try to write the data into the target, in between we create multiple batches. Okay, let's say I created 4 batches, micro batches, I can say micro batch 2, micro batch 3, or micro batch 4, right? So these are the 4 batches will be created, just giving an example, right? So what it will do, it will divide your data into multiple micro batches, then it will do all the computations, all the transformations, and then it will write the data into target location. Okay, so if you remember, in the streaming process we use one of the function called read stream, right? And in the target we use write stream. Same concept we will be using read stream and write stream only, right? But in between, since we are using the batch data, we will use simple function of the batch called write. Okay, we'll take a look how we can accomplish it. Okay, that is again syntax part of it. But now let's try to understand in what all conditions we actually need to create these batches, right? That is the most important part. So if you're dealing with the streaming data sets, okay, so micro batch is a concept which basically you will be using into the streaming only. So whenever you are dealing with the streaming data set, you will face some issues when you perform certain kind of transformations. Okay, transformations or operations or any kind of activity related to that. So let's say if you wanted to join some tables, right, you will face some issues in the streaming data set. If you wanted to perform window operations, right, for sure it will give you some kind of issues. Okay, or if you wanted to find duplicate records, right, it will give you some issues. Or if you wanted to use group by, or kind of you can say sorting. Okay, so it just a few examples. If you try to use any of these transformations on a streaming data set, you will definitely face some issues. Okay, because it's a continuous flow of data, it's an unbounded data set. Okay, unbounded means it is not having certain, or you cannot predict the amount of data basically. Okay, so in streaming we are dealing with unbounded data set, and in batch we are dealing with bounded data set, okay, which has a certain amount of data which we can check. Now, so whenever you face issue with the transformation, these kind of transformations, you have to change your approach and you have to use the micro batch concept. So now we are clear when to use it, right? Whenever you face issues with the bounded data set. First of all, what the micro batch is, again, it's the chunk of, or it's a smaller portion of the entire data, you can say, and it will create multiple batches inside it. Okay, so these two things, I think it is clear. Now let's see the syntax part, which is quite easy. Okay, so if you remember in the streaming, what syntax we use is, let's say df, we use the same concept, spark dot read stream dot format. Okay, let's say CSV we are reading, and then since it is a streaming data set, obviously you need to specify the schema. Okay, and then you have to load data from a location. So I will say it's a location or path, whatever you want to say. You have to pass the path. Once the data frame is ready, you can simply use the existing concept, right? If you don't need batches, the existing syntax was df dot write stream. Okay, and then and then format, let's say delta, and then you have to give your checkpoint location, right, inside option. So you can say checkpoint, L should be capital, location. So you need to give checkpoint location path, CKP, I'm just writing as a short form, and then you need to say where exactly you want to load this data, right? So you can say option bracket again, and you can specify the path, in which path you wanted to write your data. Okay, and then start is a function which actually start the streaming process, right? Before this, nothing will actually start working. Okay, even though if you try to run this part of the code without the start, it won't give you anything. Okay, so this is how we were using the write stream on normal streaming process, right? So if you see, we are reading the data frame and we are writing the data frame, but we are not creating any batch inside it. Now if you wanted to use the batch, in that case you don't have to use this particular syntax, right? You don't have to use. What you can do directly is you can create a function. Okay, let's say def, okay, and name your function anything, let's say process batch. You can name anything. Okay, in this function you need to pass two parameters. One is batch data frame and the other one is batch ID. So Spark internally creates an ID and it will keep it for its reference, okay, for each batch, so that later on if there is any failure it can recover from that failure. Okay, so once this function is defined, you inside the function, okay, you can say my batch data frame dot. Now as I said, right, because these are batches, right, so now we have to use batch code. So you will, instead of write stream, you will use batch data frame dot write, okay, dot where you in which format you want to write. You can say format, okay, let's say delta, sorry, and then you can specify in option like your, I'm just writing in a shortcut, checkpoint location, again option, your actual path, or instead of location, right, since we don't need to use start here, you can say save and then the path where you want to save this data. Okay, you can forget this, just after dot you need to use save, and then you can save it in a BDF, let's say, and this function should return something. So let's say it is returning batch data frame, the final data frame which you wanted to write as a streaming data frame. So now you read it in a streaming way, you have created the batches and you have written into the batch way, and now once you have this data frame, what you will do, you will actually start your final streaming data. So you will say pdf dot write stream, okay, dot, you don't have to specify format because everything is done. You just need to say how you wanted to write this data. So there is a function called for each batch. This is a function which is used to handle this entire set, this batch data frame, the batch IDs. It will take care of everything. You just have to tell him where exactly you have written your code. So you will say this is the function we have written all the logic inside it. So process batch, and then this function will do everything, right? Then you have to say start. That's it. Now if you see, I'm writing it in the batches and then returning this batch and then writing into using the streaming process. The benefit of creating this function is now inside this function you can have all your transformations, okay. So the main idea behind this particular video is to how to create this batch data frame inside it, right? That's how you can do it. So let's quickly switch over to the Databricks workspace and see how exactly we can use it, okay. So if you see, this is my notebook. This is all import statement, and then I have created one schema and I'm reading one file or multiple files or whatever is there present in this particular location. Let's quickly check it. So testing, not testing, test data, transformation, split, and there is one file, okay. We'll check with multiple files also, not an issue. Let's continue with the one file first. Let's start the streaming process first, okay. And once the reading data frame is done, what you have to do is, as I said, you have to create one function, right? Def, let's say process underscore batch, in brackets you can say batch data frame, and the batch ID, you can name it anything, but it's better to use the batch ID and batch data frame so that everyone is aware. It's a standard code, you can say, okay. Batch df dot write, okay, then dot format, you need to specify in which format you wanted to write your data, delta. Then as I said, you need to provide the location, the checkpoint location, and where exactly you wanted to save the files. So let's say mode, and one more thing like mode, right? In which mode you wanted to read the data. So I will say append, then option, and I'll copy. Okay, I don't have the path ready with me. Let me write it. Checkpoint location, you need to specify the path, which is, let's say, I just change this path, it will create on the fly, okay. I don't have to go and create it manually and then do it. So I'll say instead of test data, I will say demo streaming, okay. And since it's a checkpoint, I will say underscore ck, okay. And then I will create another path where I wanted to save it. So I will say save, and then the path. This time I'll remove the underscore, and that's it, okay. So I am creating a batch data frame. Let's store it in a batch data frame. Let's say batch df, okay, equal to, and then you can save it. Now you have to return this batch data frame, return batch data frame, and you can create another cell or you can write it there also. This is also fine. So once you have this batch data frame, you can say batch data frame dot write stream, s should be capital, make sure, then for each batch, right, for each batch, and then you have to pass this function inside it, then start. That's it, good to go. So we will see the error, why it is error is coming, but that's okay. Let me store this value also. this is fine. Batch data frame, it's giving error because as per him there is no batch data frame, right? So that's why it's giving the error. Let's say TF only, not the batch data frame, my bad. Okay, because batch data frame will come into this, it will automatically split this data frame into multiple batch data frames, and then it will start working. So that's it. Let's start running it and let's see how it works. Okay, fine, fine, fine. So this is where it will create the batches, but it won't process anything, and then here exactly it will start the process. Okay, so if you see stream initialization is started. Okay, I can go and query this path and we'll see how much records we have. Change this path, I think. Yes. Okay, let's run this. So we have 9 records, and the issue is, if you see the column names are coming as a data, we'll take a look to this part how we can skip this particular data. But let's first see if it is actually taking multiple files or not. I mean, it's actually reading the data in a continuous flow or not. So what I will do, I will add 2 more files, let's say not 3. Then okay, it should start reading those files also. And after 9 records, let's see how many records we will see now this time. See, 27 it becomes. Okay, let's upload one more file here. Okay, and let's try to run. And if you see, our streaming process is continuously running, right? It's waiting. If it is waiting, right, as soon as I'll upload one more file, you will see the next process. Oh, I already uploaded, so it should process this by this time actually. So let's run it. 27 should increase the count. 36. So that's how we can actually leverage this this batch record things. Okay, we can actually use for each batch into the structure streaming, right? And we can load the data. So I hope this video will be helpful for you guys. Thank you. Thanks for watching this video.